Welcome to the Instagram stories for Wednesday, April 3rd. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. There's a lot of news to get into, but first I want to talk about Artifact. If you're not familiar, I talk about Artifact fairly frequently on this show. It's an app that comes from the two creators of Instagram, Kevin Systrom and Mike Krieger. You might remember that Kevin and Mike sold Instagram to Facebook for $1 billion, after which they didn't do much, and who could blame them? They worked really hard for a long time, and they stayed on the Facebook team for a while as well. When they left in 2016, they didn't do a lot, but in the past year or two, they released Artifact, which was a news app that they started to integrate AI into. It showed a lot of promise, but as of January, the Artifact team was going to be shutting down the app. They decided to wind down operations, saying the market opportunity wasn't big enough to warrant continued investment. However, on the plus side, Yahoo has decided to purchase Artifact. The financial terms of the deal were not disclosed, and Artifact will no longer operate as a standalone app, but the AI-powered personalization technology will be integrated across the Yahoo platform, including the Yahoo News app, which will be happening in the coming months. There was a press release around this, and Kevin Systrom said, quote, "Yahoo brings the scale to help the product achieve what we envisioned while upholding the belief that connecting people to the trusted sources of news and information is as critical as ever," end quote. I will say that I emailed the Artifact team multiple times to ask them to come on this show, and if they happen to be hiring any product managers where I might be able to offer my assistance and skills. But I will, of course, keep tabs on Mike Krieger and Kevin Systrom because I think they are going to continue to build amazing products that the world needs to know about. In other news, the Instagram team has posted a new blog, Instagram Stories, Tips and Tricks. I will link to it, and of course, I'm going to go through these. There's nothing revolutionary here, but a little bit of context. Instagram stories are typically for your followers to watch. It's pretty unlikely that someone who does not follow you is going to watch your stories unless they're stalking you or somehow they came across you and wanted to see what you've been up to lately. Stories typically do not get shown to people who do not follow you. The Instagram team explains in this blog post that Instagram stories is where you can share what you're into or what you're up to on the fly, posting candid moments from a walk around your neighborhood, sharing what you're currently listening to, or shouting out a friend. Here are some of the tips and tricks that they mention. First, the Add Yours sticker. If you're not familiar with the Add Yours sticker, it lets anyone contribute to a public story thread that you create. There are custom prompts and public responses, so you can share the sticker and then you see who responds to it by creating their own story using the same prompt that you used. When you see Add Yours sticker on another person's story, tap on the sticker to add the story to your responses, and you can post a relevant photo or video. If you want to make your own Add Yours template, from inside the story sticker tray, select Add Yours templates. You can create a custom template or tap the dice for inspiration. Once you share it to your story, anyone can use that template and add their own spin to it. One idea that they give around creating an Add Yours template is a this or that poll or a map of where you visited. I like doing a photo prompt that's based on something very recent, like the last time you were dressed up in a suit or a very formal outfit or something like that. I think that's a really fun prompt, but come up with your own, especially ones that are relevant for your business. Another story tip that they mention is adding someone who you forgot to tag in the story after you've posted it. We've all done that. You used to have to delete the story and re-add it. Now you don't have to. Just tap the three dots, select more, and then add mention. The other tips they mention aren't really that interesting to me, but I will talk about briefly close friends. They highlight that sometimes you want to share a story to just a few people, and when you create a close friends list, you can choose to share your story with only the people on that list. Close friends is a very powerful feature. I definitely recommend exploring it, especially if you are someone who runs a brand account or you're a creator and you want your friends to see some certain content. Close friends is the way to do it. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Instagram follower accounts and some other Instagram news. So stick around. And we're back. Okay, let's do a quick hit of news on something Instagram is testing. One thing that the head of Instagram has said repeatedly is that friends now post a lot more to stories and send a lot more DMs than they post to feed. Why is that? Well, if you come across a reel or a post that you like, you may want to share it with an intimate group of people. You can't repost on Instagram to feed or reels like you can on TikTok. So your really only option is to share it to stories or to send it in the DMs. Instagram is taking that concept and expanding on it. Reverse engineering hacker Alessandro Paluzzi has uncovered that Instagram is testing a new option called Blend. It's a combined Reels feed based on the Reels that you've shared with a friend. The screenshot that I'm looking at, which of course I will link to in the show notes, explains Invite to Blend. Reels recommendations based on Reels you've shared with each other and your Reels interests. Private between the two of you. You can leave a blend at any time, and then you have a button to invite someone to this blend. An interesting concept, but how is this different from DMs? Well, they're adding in recommendations based on the Reels that you've shared with the other person. So for instance, I'm just going to throw this out as a potential idea. If you share Reels back and forth of restaurants that are local to where you live that you both want to go to, it might suggest Reels of other food-based content in the area with other suggestions of restaurants that you both might be interested in. Again, I will link to this in the show notes so you can check it out for yourself. And lastly, the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, has posted on Threads today a really interesting thought process about follower counts. He explains, quote, "Follower counts matter less than view and like counts. I understand why people focus so much on follower counts. They're prominent and they're easy to find. But if you actually want to get a sense for how relevant an account is, look at how many likes they get per post and how many views per reel instead." I will link to this thread so you can read it for yourself. He is right. I would say that I always do look at how many views reels get on accounts. And I also look at how many shares that reel got relative to how many comments and views it received. This is the metric that I specifically look at, much less than I look at follower count. I will link to this thread so you can read it for yourself and look at the whole conversation underneath because people are fierce. Okay, that is going to do it for today's episode. As always, thank you for listening. And if you have a moment, check out my latest post where I do a video version of some of this podcast, specifically around the question of whether or not Instagram is listening to you through your microphone. As always, thank you for listening and go check out my latest Instagram post.
I'm not yet a member of the Instagram team, but my podcast covers many Instagram themes. But the name, image, logos are trademarks at Instagram and the LCC in the USA and every territory. Everything I publish independently until Zuck returns my DMs and starts to pay my salary. Not sponsored or endorsed, no lies, no fallacies. I use their logo with permission, not malicious or callously. No trademark violation, filling all criteria. Follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Daniel Hill Media.